day, friends and travelers. We're going to begin the stream in about 1 minute and 30 seconds. Thank you so much for your patience. Good morning, good day, happy time zones to you. Let me fix that level just a little bit. Hey, welcome in. Today, we're going to be doing some painting. Woohoo! I love painting. I really do. I can't say that I'm not an extremely skilled painter. That doesn't bother me. That doesn't faze me in the least. It's something I just enjoy doing. And don't let your inexperience in something ever stop you from trying. So I'm just going to throw that right out there. If you've never painted before and you feel like, I'm not a painter, I can't paint, give it a whirl. Don't give up so easily. Don't give up so soon. Give it a try. Same with drawing or writing or any creative endeavor, really. Don't be afraid to try it. Don't be afraid of perfection. Don't allow yourself to be dragged down by feeling you've got to have it just right or you got to have it perfectly. There's no such thing as perfection in art, despite what the critics say. Because it's all just an imagining and it's an expression of the heart. And hello, Miro. Oh, thank you for the follow, Speed. Welcome in. Today we're going to be painting. Going to be doing 6 pieces all at once. Well, not all at once. It's going to be kind of rapid fire, moving between mediums. So I've got 4 different. This is what we did a couple weeks ago. Sorry, I'm bumping my camera around here. Sorry. So I've got 2 different pads that I'll be painting in. I've got this larger 9x12, and then the behemoth of 12x18, and it's a Mahara too. Oh my goodness! Welcome in, guys. So we've got those 4 tablets, and not all of the tablets are actually meant for painting in, but I don't care. Plus I've got 2 canvases, a smaller canvas and a larger canvas, so I'm going to be bouncing between all 6. What are today's colors? Let's take a look. All right. I am going to be unapologetically political today. You can't stop me. So we're going to be doing cadmium red deep hue, cerulean blue hue, For little distressed values, we're going to be using burnt umber. And of course, for any necessary highlights or lowlights or contrast, your standard titanium white and Mars black. But these I'll use sparingly. I usually use the titanium white to help bring back the paper, bring back the original surface. And the Mars black, I just throw it around. Throw it around for good measure. So let's talk first though before we paint. So I've got a few things in my mind. A number of things. So I read this article, and I'll post it in the chat. Just give me a half second here. Yeah, sorry. It's a very awkward position. Is it going to let me paste? Come on. All right, there we go. All right. That is an article that I read on Substack last night. Reader beware. It's a very long read. I'm not sure how much of it I believe, but knowing all that we've been through in America over the past 15 years, really, that article makes so much more sense as to all of the lunacy that's going on in the United States right now. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of what that article says, and it's not going to do it justice. Effectively this, that Trump is not really the issue in American politics right now, nor is it his followers. Of course, his followers have never been the problem. The problem is that, people don't really skillfully think of the ideologies that they're absorbing. And we often tend to, as human beings, make impulse decisions based upon our circumstances and where we've been in life. That's how we're here. But this is a lot different. So, with the explosive growth of technology over the past few decades, there has been a growing sentiment, according to this article, that that government and democracy itself is incompatible with the explosive growth of technology, and that that government and democracy itself are an inhibitor for growth for technology. That thought just makes me squeamish. And according to the article, there's been a concerted long game effort amongst the wealthiest of the Silicon Valley executives and CEOs, amongst an extremist libertarian view that think that democracy is incompatible, and they have been systematically doing things on the inside to cause the collapse of the democratic state of the United States. That's all about I'm going to say on it. Maybe I'll talk a little bit more about it. But what I really want to spend time talking about today is, as we paint and express ourselves through creativity, that with all of the things that we're bombarded with in the news, in social media, in posts and things, it can be overwhelming. It can be really, really overwhelming, which is why we're going to be talking today about cultivating equanimity when the world feels like it's falling apart. What is equanimity? Equanimity is simply steadiness. Steadiness of mind, steadiness of heart. And not being easily shaken by whatever's happening in the world, whatever's happening around us. A good metaphor would be like a large outcropping of rock along the shoreline of an ocean, constantly battered by the waves, the wind, the changes in the seasons, but yet it still remains firm, steadfast, unmoved. So what do we do to cultivate that? Well, we're going to talk about that while we paint, shall we? All right. Let's switch over to the overhead view. And as usual, we're going to do a little bit of prep on all our mediums. Oh boy. Please teach me, Master Jedi. How do we cultivate equanimity? That's first of all, a necessary disclaimer. Oh, I like this. Remember doing this. I forgot about this piece. Remember that from a few weeks back? Yeah. And even more few weeks and several. Yeah. We're going to do some more. Well, first of all, I need to make the disclaimer that I am a work in progress. You know, despite all my best intentions, I still get shaken up. In fact, one of my hot buttons is, you know, I don't know what it is, but I have a tendency now and then, not often, I have a tendency to take the bait when I'm thinking in terms of algorithmic content, when the algorithm is serving up information. I tend to be a sucker, not a sucker. I tend to be really drawn to content that speaks to the impermanence of our society, of the world, not in kind of an apocalyptic way, but more like standing back and watching just, I don't know, watching the devastation unfold. And I don't really like it. It's just, it's like when you hear a siren coming down the street and you can't help but want to look and see, where's that coming from? You know, is there an accident, or is there, I don't know. So I have a predisposition for that. So that's a big disclaimer. But yeah, that looks good. I don't know. Gathering my thoughts. You know what might be best is I'm going to pull out my bullet journal. I wrote extensively last night about what I was feeling and experiencing and mentally, and And maybe it would be appropriate. Let's just do that. Maybe that would be more appropriate. Just get this started, and then we can elaborate on it. So I asked myself the question, what is the antithesis to all of this fear that we're experiencing? All of the paranoia, all of the worry about what's going to happen. What's the world going to look like? What is the balanced mindset? What will keep you in the state of equanimity when it seems like the world is collapsing in on itself? And what is to be done about the tech bros, the broligarchy, if you will, that want to actually rule the world? And that's according to this article. It's all alleged, but I think there's a great deal of truth. What is the antidote to this? What is the answer to all of this? How do we go about our life as creatives, as artists, as human beings, with democracy in question, the future unknown? What do? Be small. Don't shrink back, but be small. And what I mean by that is, you have these guys that are trying to basically assert their level of dominance because of their wealth and their influence. And I mean, this is classic oligarchy. I view it in a way kind of similar to how the real answer to hate is not more hate. I mean, Gaza and Israel is the epitome of this, trading hate for hate and insult for insult. I mean, it's clearly one-sided in terms of volume, but the way to stop that cycle is someone has to stop, and someone has to start loving and being kind or showing some sort of decency. So when I say be small, and I'm thinking in the context of this digital lunacy that we're in, this state of panic on social media, on all of the different platforms. Stop using your phone for everything. Stop using your phone for everything. And before I even go further, this is all written for myself. So if you don't agree with this, if you don't feel this applies to you, then, ignore it. It's not going to bother me. But I use my phone for everything. I use it for my grocery list, planning out meals, listening to music, use it for all my communications, managing a lot of productivity stuff, and I'm way too heavily dependent. I need it for work because VPN and all the two-factor authentication but seriously, severely limit your time on the phone, on your computer, on the TV, and on video games. Unplug, in a word. Read books, paperbacks, hardcovers, no ebooks. Educate yourself, but don't indoctrinate yourself. Avoid radical ideas. Find the middle ground, the wisdom in thought. Be slow in formulating an idea, methodically challenging everything. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and grow your food. Grow things, grow flowers, plant trees, shrubberies. Return to your connectedness with the earth. Find your place among the trees, or the sand dunes, or the hills and the mountains. See that we are not separate. We are interdependent on one another, on our planet, the oxygen, the air that we breathe, on water, clean water, healthy soil to produce food, the insects, the pollinators, the birds. Also, love your neighbors, your actual neighbors. Be kind to them. Lend a helping hand. Say kind things to them and all that you meet. Love others as you love yourself. Treat others as equals. We are all one consciousness, and that a consciousness that has a terrible case of blindness right now. What else can you do? Make art, make music, express, release, let go, celebrate, mourn, laugh, weep. Allow the fullness of life to move through you uninhibited. Love with kind eyes. Smile with genuine sincerity. Be a helper. Be a listener. A watcher. An observer. Then paint, write, sing, play. Let your love and your light radiate from however much, what was that word? Well, let your light radiate for however much time you have left here on earth. Don't let anything stand in your way from allowing your heart to sing its own song, to air its own grievances, to release and let go of its pain and trauma. Unplug often. It's almost impossible to completely unplug from the online world, though I have seen exceptions. But I feel now, more than ever, it's time to pull back and heavily moderate how much time we spend on our phone, our computer, the Xbox or PlayStation, the TV, and other forms of digital escapism. Check and know your level of addiction and dependency on these devices. Use your phone sparingly. Write out your lists. Use pen, pencils, and paper. Love that alliteration. Rediscover the joy of vinyl, CDs and cassettes, printed art, photo books, all things analog. But even still, unplug from all of the electronics and get out into nature more. See the beauty in the ordinary. And lastly, the antithesis to this power grab at the United States and to democracy. Desire less. Want less. Practice contentment and simplicity. Stop hoarding and buying disposable things. Value a life with enough. Be small. Read more books. Grow things. Love yourself and love each other. Make things. Create things. Beautiful things. Unplug often. And desire less. There you go, young Padawan. So now, let's kind of unpack some of that. There's a lot. There's a lot of thoughts in there. My first thought is about phones. Oh, phones. They're such a useful device with such great possibility. But I fear that if we end up in a true oligarchy state, in a true state of that if we trying to find the right words for this, if we really do end up in an authoritarian state, and quite honestly, the radical ideas that are coming from some of the libertarian, it's a neo-libertarianism. It's not even true libertarianism. It's more of an extremist version. But the idea is that, the central idea is that government and democracy is in itself is inefficient and is holding back progress in terms of technology. You know what? Maybe they're right. However, there are no checks and balances. That's the part that's distressing to me. They want unfettered resources. They want unfettered ability to do whatever the hell they want to do with no restrictions, letting the marketplace sort itself out. I don't know, man. It does, Disillusionist. You're right. For the people not able to see chat, Disillusionist says, efficiency without equity leaves so many behind, in my honest opinion. You are correct. Because here's the deal. If you run a country, a city, a town, whatever, like you run a business, let's follow this out. Let's follow this line of thinking just for a bit, because this is what we need to do. We need to follow these lines of thought and consider as many of the possibilities as we can, even the good possibilities, but also for sure the possible negative consequences. Now, I need to preface this is that some of these things that we're going to talk about may not happen. They may not. But with all of the time that I've spent in corporate America, and I've worked for some big companies and small, when you think about how a corporation is run, everything is about efficiency. It's about, well, more or less. But at the end of the day, it's about appeasing the shareholders. I don't think that Elon Musk views us as shareholders, which really, in a true democracy, we would be the shareholders. He would have to appeal to us as a collective. And I'm not just saying right or left. I'm not saying Republican or Democrat. I'm saying the people. We, the motherfucking people. Sorry for the language. I feel it's necessary. We are the shareholders. But he's in there acting like he has full license to do whatever he wants. I mean, he's with the DOGE. He has been firing people left and right, letting people go. They've been installing proprietary software, AI software. Of course, it's phoning home back to their private systems. Follow the train of thought. If we start treating citizens like employees, which I think is the more likely scenario, if we start being treated like employees, are we going to be held accountable for our level of efficiency, our level of value. And what of the people who do not have enough value or worth to the mothership? What happens then? I think of I've got a good dear friend of mine who's disabled. He has spina bifida, among numerous other conditions. He is totally dependent on government aid. He can't hold down a job. He's an intelligent person. He's capable in many ways, but without government aid, he would be left behind. Discarded in the eyes of the government, in the eyes of efficiency. That really worries me, because in the more extremist side of some forms of libertarianism, you would be left behind. You would be forgotten. There would be no funding for you. There'd be no safety net. And you would be at the mercy of the people around you to provide for you. I also think about all the protected classes, the people who identify as queer, for people with dark skin and complexion, black people. I fear for women, the marginalized women, for Hispanics and all the immigrants. What if your value to the enterprise, we'll call it the enterprise, not in Star Trek terms, but I'm thinking enterprise, corporate, the corporate enterprise. If you are of no value, you'll be left behind. And that concerns me, because what that is a devaluing of humanity. It's a devaluing of the individual. It's a devaluing of who you are as a person, regardless. Yeah, it's so. With this in mind, this is why I feel like the antithesis to things that are playing out is it's going to call upon us as human beings to really dig deep and love one another, to be kind to one another, to look out for those who can't look out for themselves. Because if this all plays out the way that article that I referenced earlier, The Plot Against America, if all that plays out, it's going to be up to you and me to care for the marginalized in society, the forgotten, the ones who can't fend for themselves. And it's going to take a good deal of protesting, standing up against this liberal oligarchy. But equanimity, though, to do this in such a way where you don't feel burdened 100% of the time, or get burnt out on anxiety. That's where you really need to spend some time doing the things necessary to cultivate peace of mind, equanimity right where you are, so that you have the strength and the reserves to speak up, to speak out, to defend the defenseless, to look out for the least of these. This is Yeah. All right, I need to actually start painting. So let's do this. And I mentioned that I was going to be a little bit political, and it's going to come out in my painting. It's also been coming out in my drawing lately. I should show you, before I get painting here, let me show you some of the sketches I've been working on as of late. Maybe they'll be interesting, maybe they won't. I think I showed you guys some of this. This, again, this is just surrealist nonsense, but there's a lot of symbology in there. There's a lot of symbology? Whoa. Let's try that again. A lot of symbolism. Symbology. Here I'm making up words. I have also been working on my anatomy, skulls in particular, to improve my ability with drawing faces. But as of late, they've been starting to get a little bit more pointed in terms of making statements. Like this one really starts to make more statements about different things. This, for me, was genius. It's Trump as a Pez dispenser, but he's dispensing bullshit, but it's being fed. He's being fed, so he's just the mouthpiece. And then this piece here, I don't know. This is another one I started this morning on the relay station. But anyway, let's paint. I want to paint. All right, we're going to start out with matte medium. I'm curious about you guys' thoughts. For those of you that are still around listening, if I haven't scared you off, I want to know what you think about all of this stuff. What do you think? Tell me what sort of things give you peace or give you a sense of equanimity to be okay in the midst of things that don't feel okay. Because I think, to me, that is the solid definition of equanimity, is the feeling of being okay when everything around you is not okay. Part of it for me requires a great deal of subtlety. I think we're going to start out with cadmium red deep hue. I think one of the things that gloss medium in there. One of the things I do in meditation is I use a mantra. In fact, let's just take a moment. Could we do that? Just take a moment, just to slow down. Before we even paint, let's close our eyes for just a moment. And take some very deep breaths, deep, long, slow breaths. Take your time. Inhale fully, hold it for a little bit, and exhale real slowly. And then pause at the end and repeat. Let's take a deep breath together. In. And release slowly. Breathe in again. Hold it. And exhale slowly. Keep breathing. And feel these words in your heart, in your mind. May I have love, joy, and peace. May I see the goodness in myself and in all living things. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be joyful and content. I'll repeat that one more time. May I be filled with love, joy, and kindness. May I see the goodness in myself and in all living beings. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be joyful and content. Let's paint. That is the mantra that I use. Oh, that's magical. I like that. Now, does that mean when we use that mantra, does that mean that we should be, or that we can't be upset or outraged? I think it's absolutely appropriate to be outraged, to speak your mind, to speak your piece, to stand up for other people, to stand up for justice when we see it, when we see injustice. But at the same time, maintaining that mind and that heart of peace, so that when you are faced with really difficult emotions, when you're faced with difficult circumstances, things that really challenge your reserves, or when you see nothing but hate from, certain peoples, it's that mind of peace. It's that state of, I am okay. I am fine in the world, regardless of what is. I am the master of my own emotions. I am the master of my own mind, the master of my own body. There is full sovereignty here. Because when we get ourselves really worked up about what we read, when we get really worked up about what someone else is doing in the world, and we feel powerless about it, and all we want to do is just scream into the void, if we surrender over our emotions and allow ourselves to be worked up by the Elon Musks of the world, by the Trumps of the world, we've given up our freedom. We've given up our liberty. For a while now, I've really held on to this idea this idea really resonates with me, that real freedom doesn't come from a flag. It doesn't come from an allegiance to a country. And it doesn't come from a flippin' bumper sticker that has red, white, and blue and American eagles and skulls and all the other nonsense that we see. Freedom comes when you are the master of yourself, your own emotions. When you are when you don't allow yourself to be run over by what other people say or do. Because those are things that we can't control. We can't control the actions of other people. We can't control what they think. We can't control what they say. And in other more mystic traditions, thinking of Buddhism and Hinduism and other Taoism, there's a lot of emphasis on your own personal well-being. There's the idea that you maintain and cultivate your own equanimity. You are the one that's responsible for not letting people into your head, because the thoughts, that's where we get into troubles, where we get lost in thought, when we get swept up by emotion in our mind. It's one thing to read something and get upset by it, or to see something, be upset by it. That is completely natural, it's completely normal, and it's expected. Where we get into trouble is when we then get lost in thought and imaginations, hypothesizing what's going to happen in the future, or obsessed about something in the past. Those are the realms that we can't do anything about. We can't do anything about the past. And the future isn't here yet. So if we worry about stuff that hasn't happened yet, if it doesn't come to pass, we've worried for nothing. We've expended energy for nothing. If it does come to pass, we will have worried twice, or 3 times, or however many times you obsess about it. And this is, I'm speaking probably more so to myself than I am to anybody else in the world. That when we get lost in the imaginings of the mind, and all the mind is trying to do is simply help us survive. That's all it is. It's just survival techniques. And the brain is going, we really don't like these situations right now. We need to start planning for plan B and plan C and plan D. And the mind is actively at work trying to figure out how to help the body and itself avoid suffering. But ironically, in all that activity, we generate suffering. Dissolutionist says, I've always thought of it as we are vehicles, and you must refuel a vehicle. And depending upon the kind of day, errands, trips you have to take, the level of fuel will be different at the end, and you'll have to refill more or less afterwards. If you run that car in the wrong gear, you may waste a lot of fuel. Learn how to measure that fuel and use that energy and emotion in more momentous ways. And that takes time to learn. That's really good. I like that. I like that. It's a good analogy that we have trips to make, miles and miles to go before we sleep. As the poem goes by Robert Frost. I have many miles to go and hours before I sleep. Many miles to go and hours before I sleep. I think that's how it goes. It's been a while since I've read the poem. Stopped by a forest on a snowy night. Probably even got the title wrong. It was one of my favorite poems for a very long time. Well, I like this red. This is becoming a new favorite hue of mine. Still not going to take the place of cadmium yellow deep hue. That is a favorite of mine. Kind of has that, I did go back and look and compare the cadmium yellow deep hue to the Kill Bill, like Beatrix's jumpsuit in Kill Bill. And I guess it's not as close as a match I thought it was, but cadmium yellow deep medium hue, that is a almost spot on to her jumpsuit. It's just such a cool color. I love it a lot, but we're not working with that today. Let's get that water down. So the one thing I want to say is that if none of this plays out, if the people speak up and we can overturn Musk, stop his lunacy. The thing is that his ideas aren't entirely wrong, but where they are distinctly wrong is in leaving people behind, in the devaluation of people who are inefficient to the government or inefficient to a corporate structure or who have little to contribute. That part worries me extensively. I worry about a lot of things. A lot of scenarios run through my mind. But in the end, you have to come back to this feeling of the future's not here yet. So I need to maintain this mind, this heart, this body, and not get too lost in thought. Because I don't know about you, but my mind can do some pretty fantastical imaginations. No lie. Well, we've got an ad break coming up in 4 minutes here. I am going to go silent for a while. I'm going to turn up the music and we're going to enjoy the beautiful, sweet sounds of Henrik Meyercord. This is his new album. It's called String Drone Adagios, and it was just recently released. It's fantastic music, worth listening to, and you can find this album out at imaginarynorth.bandcamp.com. imaginary.north.com. It's on Imaginary North Records. I believe it's also out on the streaming platforms as well, if you're still using Spotify or Apple Music. But I highly encourage you to check it out at Bandcamp. All right, I'm going to go silent for a while. I'm going to keep painting here, and I'll be back and probably back with more thoughts in about 5 minutes. So stick around. right. We're back from the ad break. Cool. Thank you for your patience. Thanks for sticking around. For those of you watching on YouTube, every now and then, Jeff Bezos decides that he wants to run an ad break because he's got to fill his coffers. Let me tell you one upside to all of this. To all of this craziness that's going on in DC. It's no longer an issue of Republican versus Democrat, right versus left. I mean, there is still ideologies that are inherently more favorable to one side of the perspective than the other. But it simplifies matters. I'm going to turn that down just a little. It simplifies matters in that we're not supposed to be fighting each other in this. So people that have long associated with Republican or even some levels of libertarianism, they are not the enemy. Neither are the Democrats, people who associate as liberal. We are not our enemies. However, we do have one pretty formidable foe. And I hate to even call Elon Musk a foe, because in the end, at least according to Buddhist thought, he's only doing the very things that are natural from everything that he has been exposed to. It's not to justify him at all. It's more so just to come to an understanding that, you know, he's not making these choices to be spiteful, except for maybe to democracy and government itself. I don't think he means to necessarily be spiteful about other human beings, though I've seen accounts of how he feels about some people. But in the end, it simplifies things. It reminds us that we're not against each other. We're not supposed to be fighting one another in this. Which is why I think love and compassion and kindness are paramount. Because it's the gateway to be able to have a conversation with someone who's different from yourself, who holds an entirely different frame of view or perspective. So it helps to try and spend some time reading and understanding where people are coming from in order to better understand how to have a dialogue with them on these things. And that's quite frankly what we're missing right now, is a dialogue. There is no dialogue here. Elon Musk and his cronies and all the other tech bros are more or less going in without any sort of involvement of the shareholders themselves, us, the taxpayers. He's just making these decisions for himself. A little bit more blue here. This is a really nice shade. This is cerulean blue hue. I really enjoy this color. I really enjoy it. So, my mind is like, all right, we've got this red, white, and blue thing going. It seems too too cheery and up. I don't know. We're gonna have to distress this. And I think we're gonna go allow ourselves to get a little bit. I don't know, what word am I looking for? We're not going to hold this painting so precious. I think the next step is going to be the burnt umber, and we're going to light this candle box on fire. Metaphorically speaking. Alright, let's clean up the palette. And we'll have a little conversation while I'm cleaning. So... I don't know. I feel like I need to stop, take a deep breath, and gather myself. So, in my little short, I don't even call it an essay, but my journal of thoughts, I talked about using your phone less, using your spending less time in front of the computer, less time in front of the TV, getting out into nature more, spending less on digital entertainment. And here's the irony: is here I am saying, hey, pay attention to me. The reality is that I feel like I'm here to try and help reach people, to help encourage people, and to help steer people into a direction that isn't so self-destructive, and a direction that may even offer some level of hope. Because there's a lot of fear right now. There's a lot of paranoia and intrepidation and wondering what's going to happen next. So, but when going back to my thought about why spend less time on the phone, why spend less time in front of the TV and the news and all of the other things, I feel that part of the reason we got here is because of our hunger for entertainment, our desire to be lulled into kind of a sleeping state of I don't even know how to describe it, of a catatonic state where you're just mindlessly being fed content, entertainment, so that we can escape reality because we feel reality is too painful to embrace. But this is how we got here. The tech bros knew with time and observation that we can be bought. We can be manipulated. And what kind of set this off from some perspectives is was the financial collapse in 2008, the housing market and all of the things. That's when a lot of these libertarian ideas really started catching hold. And Trump has just become a puppet. He's like the Wizard of Oz, the huge floating, shouting, screaming head. But really behind the scenes is where the real action is going on. The real viewpoint, the real manipulation. At least allegedly speaking. I think there is a great deal of evidence to support this, though. And think back to all of the election issues that we've had with Russian interference, quote unquote Russian interference. And maybe there was actual Russian interference. Maybe there was coercion from, not coercion, but a conspiracy between Trump and Putin to sway things in his favor. But ultimately it came out of the destabilization of information. And that is ultimately, well, one of two elements that are the key driving factors behind their ideologies. One is the control of information. They want to control the flow of information. Why do you think the media, as of late, has been so neutered? They've not been holding anybody accountable. It's just been relatively like another day in the office. You know? I wonder if I should water that down and make that more translucent. I think so. Let's try watering down just a little edge of it. But back onto my point is that there is movement in place towards a definite, more authoritarian rule. A surveillance state. Apple computers, as of late, there's been word on the street that they are going to be reneging on their classic valuing of privacy. That's why I valued gesso. That's a great idea too, Miro. We could do some gesso. Gesso might lighten it up. I'm looking to kind of make it a little bit more translucent. But the medium will help a little bit. And I introduced... oh shoot, did I put matte or gloss? I think I put gloss in. I hope I did. One of the things that concerns me, though, is that with their control of information, oh, you know what we're going to have to do? We're not going to hear... I know what we need to do. Yes, this is what we need to do. Blot it in. Show a little bit of wear. I fear for people's privacy. Like, what happens if they change their minds on protected classes and suddenly let's say gay people or queer people are no longer considered a part of the future. Of course, they're going to use your phone data. And with Apple, the change that Apple is going to be making in, I believe it's iOS 15, or is it 16? I don't recall which number. The plan is that your phone is going to be actively looking through your photographs. And this is all alleged. I don't know if this is true or not. So take this with a grain of salt, please. They certainly have the capability and the technology to do it. But the idea is that they would be able to, they would use AI to rifle through your photographs and your videos, looking for prohibitive content. Now, there is a really noble angle to this, and it's the idea of course, they do this with a lot of things, you know, to protect the children, obviously, from, you know, sexual predators and child pornographers and that sort of thing. So that is usually how this stuff plays out. We need to protect the children. But what happens if you are protesting the ones in power for some atrocious things that they're doing, and you, with your geolocation information, are proven to be at the scene of a protest? You could then be flagged as a dissident. And then what happens? That's why I say maybe spend less time on the phone. Become less dependent on it. Don't catalog your whole life in the phone. Don't share every bit of your thoughts online. Maybe disable location services for good measure. But it's not, it's even less about the whole surveillance state thing. It goes back to my earlier thoughts about of really just unplugging and enjoying life in the beauty of nature. Not feeling like you have to do everything about, you know, like your whole life exists online, which is which would be an absolute huge paradigm shift for people who make their livelihood off of streaming online. I think of my friend 9.5. I love her dearly. She's a great friend. I care about her, and she's super entertaining and fun to watch. Great stream. I can't imagine as being someone who depends on these services for your livelihood, and yet above it all is this overhanging the extremely wealthy and powerful, and the manipulation of it all. I mean, that it really, if I were in the shoes of streamers, and I kind of am because I do this stuff, I stream, I have my content online, it has me looking to considering more analog alternatives, or maybe adjusting my priorities. But at its heart is, I think, just finding a life of simplicity. The idea of just go plant some flowers, Get some houseplants if you've... I know that many of us will end up just killing our houseplants because we don't know how to care for them, but learn how to grow things. Get your hands dirty. Get it in the dirt. Feel the soil in your toes. Yeah, I'm advocating for barefoot gardening. 100%. There's nothing like it. Here's where this logic plays out too. Is that these tech bros are making scads of money off of us. This is one of the reasons why I say I don't really encourage you to hit the subscribe button here on Twitch. Because you're just giving money off to Bezos, you know? Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just... I don't know. There's just there's a conflict that I feel inside about all that, though. Like, if this is the way that it's going to be, if the vulnerable are going to be at risk, I don't need to stream so badly then. I don't need to be giving my money. So I have canceled all of my Google services. About the only thing I haven't been able to unwind yet is email. That one's going to be a longer game to try and sort that one out. Because I have so many subscriptions, things that I'm receive emails about, and it's going to take me a very long time to undo that mess. But I've gotten rid of my booking calendar service through Google. I don't use their backup service anymore, their drive service. I still use email though. That'll eventually be moved. I haven't bought anything off Amazon anymore. You know, that's another one that's on my list. Stop spending money on Amazon. I've deleted this one took me a long time. I've gone through and deleted everything of mine on Facebook. It took me several days because I was on since 2008. A lot of history there. It was also really interesting to go back and look at some of the things that I was posting and ranting about back in the day and how my online behavior was back then, juxtaposition to how it is now. I really like this. I really like what the Burnt Umber did. That's kind of interesting. That's going to have potential. I don't know. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that think that I'm being reactionary, that I am falling in line with conspiracy theories and whatnot. But it's not the conspiracy theories that draw me. It's the fear of what happens to the people who can't fend for themselves, or what happens to our respective freedoms as individuals. You know, which is why I've really been leaning heavily into meditation lately. because it's one of the few things that gives me peace in the midst of all of this. And art. Art has been an indispensable way of voicing my feelings without words, which is why I just encourage you, if you've never painted in your life, if you've never drawn in your life, if you've never worked with clay before, or even sewing or crocheting or knitting, photography, music, find ways to vent, find ways to decompress the feelings and emotions you have. Let art be your language. And then share it. Not for the sake of becoming famous or viral, but share it because it's just your voice. Not everyone's going to hear it. I know I wallow in kind of, not wallow, but I know that I'm in relative obscurity and it doesn't bother me. But I know that if what I create can help bring someone some hope or help them through their own respective difficult time, difficult emotions, then it's all worth it. I know that we're going to need to bring back some white and color on this side. I think I've overdone that just a bit. It's okay. Let's do, you know what? Let's do that. I'm gonna do some gesso. I'm gonna grab some gesso and I'm gonna mix it with whatever I've got left of this burnt umber. And I'm gonna add more water. So we're gonna do, now we're gonna lighten it up. We're gonna also make it a little bit more translucent and maybe add some gloss medium. And we're gonna cover everything up. Not entirely, but just like a layer of this medium. I really wish I had more space. I really do. All right. Gesso. Be right back. All right. All right, let's clean up palette knife just a little bit more. So, my dear friend Paul Baudouin, who we are listening to right now, he has an art exhibit going on right now. He lives in Estonia. He was born here in the United States, in Florida, and moved to Estonia for, I don't know, some just interesting opportunities for art and expression there. And you should follow him on Instagram. Here I am promoting more social media. His art, actually, you can just, I think his website is paulbaudouin.net, I believe. Or you can get to paulbaudouin.bandcamp.com, and I think there is a link off to his main website where you can find his art. I think it's a link to his Linktree. Worth checking out. He's a really good artist, and I look up to him. All right, here's some gesso. Way more than I probably need. In fact, I'm going to have so much of this burnt umber, I'm not going to know what to do with it all. And then spray bottle. A little bit of water, and then we'll mix it all together. And who knows what this is going to make? Who knows? I don't pretend to have the finest grasp on color blending and working with mediums and all that. I'm an amateur. Not afraid to admit it. Not afraid to express my limitations or talk about my limitations or where I'm at. It's kind of a warm gray, this tone. It's kind of interesting. I'm also really terrible at using the palette knife and trying to keep my paint gathered. Like, I watch some of these other painters and artists, how they are just effortlessly just keep their paint all gathered together and it looks so nice, and I'm just like, me, sloppy mess. All right, I think let's do this. We're gonna use this palette. Oh, should we use the big palette knife? No, we're just gonna lightly glaze the palette knife. Not a lot on there. Oh, that's not as nearly as opaque as I want it to be. Nope. Nope. Did not like that. Did not like that at all. Maybe we need to be selective about it. That's what I'm thinking. So go back to the paper towel. This was not... I did not have the kind of results I was hoping for. But again, this is just going to be like a mask. And this will all be the underpainting, and then we'll come back over with more layers. One of the things that I've learned from myself is sometimes you have to destroy something beautiful in order to come back to something amazing. Sometimes that means putting a wash of something you're like, what? Whoa, what is that? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if... All right. Now, this seems to work a lot better on paper than canvas. That's interesting to me. Interesting. I think after we do this layer, the very next is going to be coming back at this with some white. Bring back the paper. Bring back some of that negative space, that negative energy. And then we'll reintroduce some blue and red. All right, where are we at time? 2 o'clock. Gosh, man, we had a pretty decent full house at the relay station this morning. I featured a compilation album from the label Past Recordings, and a lot of those people showed up. And I think made some new and amazing connections with some fantastic people there. I'm also excited that one of my newer friends in the ambient community, his name is Fraser. He goes by, I've played his music here and on the relay station numerous times. He goes by the moniker Rotating Tapes. He and I are going to be having a video conversation this week. I'm so excited for that. I'm going to probably be bringing back the ambient discourses, which is that long form podcast, talking to musicians, composers, that sort of thing. But it's going to be audio only, and it's going to be more tightly coupled with the work I'm doing over at Substack. I have to tell you that, all right, Substack is not the answer to all our problems. However, it is a great platform, and it already ticks off like 3 or 4 or 5 of the different things that I value as someone who wants to be able to communicate and share with the community. One, they have what they call notes. It's your short form posting where people just post short thoughts and links off to articles, things that they've read or written, maybe videos or whatever. That's fine. It's a great short form way of being able to stay in contact or give small updates. But they also have the bread and butter is really the ability to make long form written content. It's really targeting toward writers, but in reality, this is something that works for almost anybody, I think. Except the caveat, except for people who prefer creating short form content. I mean, this is not really just stay at TikTok, please. Don't come over to Substack if all you do is short form. But they also have built into it the easy way to make a podcast. You can host a podcast effortlessly. You know, obviously you have to put in the work to create the content. But like with a simple click of a button, boom, your audio posts are now podcasts. And they also have a link that dynamically generates a private podcast feed for Apple Music. So if you want to listen to the podcast the episodes on Apple Music, you can. And you can do it by publication, by author, that sort of thing. Of course, you can listen using the Substack app. The Substack app is kind of, I don't know, I think it needs work. There are some, I'm going to be wasting all of this brown. I don't think I'm going to use any more of this. Maybe I'll try and keep it wet, and maybe I'll come back to it. But they also have baked into it the ability to do mailing lists, and that's all tied into your written content. So if you do articles or essays and long-form thoughts, you can, when you publish your thing, it can be sent out as an email to your list. Sorry if you're getting all woozy because of the screen's moving here. Or the camera, I should say. But the beauty of that is that you don't have to be out at the Substack ecosystem. You can get content just delivered to your email address, which is fantastic. Of course, the flip side of that, it's also easy to become overwhelmed that way by your subscriptions. And I'm thinking also of Discord fatigue, because Discord fatigue is a thing. Anyways, there are numerous features that I really like about the platform. I am under no illusions that it is the solution to all our problems. Because the solution to all our problems is the fact that we are heavy consumers. And we're more or less creating free content, ways to keep ourselves entertained. And the tech companies are profiting off of that. So I'm inclined to think that the real answer to our problems is not a platform. It's not a better form of social media. We really have to ask ourselves some tough questions and ask ourselves, how are we contributing to the problem? How are we adding to the fire, the dumpster fire? And a lot of it is human nature. But I'm hopeful, though, that the nature of the platform can help foster the kind of long-form conversations that we need, the kind of cooperation and rewarding curiosity of thought, and sharing and exchanging ideas without demonizing and villainizing one another, because that's another issue. All right. White. Titanium white. Let's bring some of that over here. And let's bring in some, I think we're going to go gloss. I think we are going to go gloss. To contrast with the nature of the distressed reds and blues. What a weird world we live in. It's so surreal. I don't know how you feel, but it feels like a weird dream. And this is where I get like the whole Matrix vibes, you know? Where you're like, is this really real? Is this really happening? Like, how is Elon Musk and Zuckerberg and Bezos in this dream, and they're bringing down our form of government so they can have their idealized utopia. So weird. It's so surreal. Which is also going to make for some great art. Like, it gives us a clear target for our objections. But again, we have some skin in this game. This is why I think that part of the answer to these problems is returning to nature and minimalist living, like being content with less. Maybe spending less time being entertained, more time reading and educating ourselves. And I know this is idealistic thinking. It really is. Because human nature is not going to necessarily just go, yeah, that's a great idea, let's start reading. I don't know if I can read more than 50 pages or 3 pages. And we become so addicted to being handed content to us that we don't know how to be without having content served to us. We don't know how to sit well with long form ideas. We get bored after 60 seconds and move on. So, true story. I looked at my metrics. So, when I had finished January, of course, was this whole month-long event during January of last month of creating ambient compositions every day. And using this as an excuse to experiment and try different things that we've never done before. Like, one of the things I did that was really interesting and a great stretch was I created a drone. I think it was like a 6-minute or 5.5-minute composition where there was no instrumentation. It was all created with an internal feedback loop. And I took that feedback and I created like 5 different drone loops with different effects and different pitch corrections and things like that to sculpt the sounds to give me 5 completely different sounding feedback loops and made them sound musical. Relatively. They're kind of more atmospheric, I think. And then used my Boss RC 505 Mark II loop workstation as to basically create the composition itself. So I recorded each of the loops in a different bank, and then the performance itself was blending these kind of blending all of these loops into a real-time exploration of how do these things sound together, that sort of thing. That's cool right there. That's almost magical. Completely unintentional, but it looks like it goes from white to red, same stroke width. Oh my gosh. Mental note to try and not screw that area up in this painting. Let's see, let's do a little bit more here. All right. But it was really interesting going through that exercise of creating something long form. All right, back onto my point though. My point was that I went back and looked at the metrics on each daily video to see how much people were actually watching. And I did not do this, just to be clear, as a means of trying to validate myself or to see if people like the material or not. I really, in the case of January, I really don't care if people like it or not. But it was an experimentation to see, does this confirm my suspicions? And we got an ad break in less than 5 minutes here. Does this confirm my suspicions that short form or that long form content is sought after? And it's not. Like most of my full length compositions on YouTube, at least, the stats there indicate that most people listened for a minute and a half at the most. With only maybe 2 or 3 people listening to the whole thing. And I have a pretty good idea of who 2 of those people are. Only because they're people that I was participating in January with, and we were commenting on each other's works, you know. So it was more of a supporting each other kind of thing, you know. The average listener really didn't connect, which underscores my belief, and not even belief, my opinion and observations that short form content is the crack cocaine of our modern era, and that long form content, actually no, that's not a good comparison, but it is like crack cocaine, if we're honest. Can't get enough of it and keep coming back for more every day. But in a way, it's kind of like the short form content is kind of like the disco, or not disco, but even like the early pop music and synth music, and everyone loved it and super addictive and bubblegummy, whereas the punk rock scene was like, screw you, screw the establishment, we're gonna make really loud music and we're gonna be screaming into microphones. And I view ambient music as the new punk rock. It's completely countercultural. It's long form. It's antithetical to what the tech industry is moving towards. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of them. Short form content. even on some level, I'm kind of concerned about Substack eventually going that route too. And then the platform becomes lost in a sea of people just wanting to be heard in a short form level. Meanwhile, all of the people who are creating long form, meaningful content that has research behind it and deep thought and effort, and that all of that just gets lost. That's one of my concerns. All right. Cool. We got the white layer brought back. And now we're gonna do the real painting. So you're like, what? I thought that was the real painting. No, that's the underpainting. All right, ad break's gonna start in 50 seconds. I'm going to go silent, crank up the music, and paint for a few minutes, and then we'll come back for more thoughts. Wow, that was a great piece. Paul Baudouin. It's called Aurora's Awakening. And that is from his, I think it's called Alchemy. What's the name of that album? Alchemies. That's it. Really good stuff. Oh my God. Paul, eat your heart out, man. That's good music. Very good music. So, I don't So where do we go from here? I think we go back to the main driving points or thoughts that I made earlier about trying to return to a simpler life. I mean, we're so addicted to life online. We are. We're gonna go matte with the red and blue again. What am I doing? Embrace simplicity. I'm slowly working on reducing my dependency on my phone. There's a few things that I'm not going to be able to escape. Namely, multi-factor authentication. Because that's a reality that we live in now, and most of my MFAs are all app-based, so I either need the Microsoft Authenticator or the Google Authenticator in order to use a number of different services that I depend on. So in that regard, the phone is a necessary evil. Instagram and Facebook, they are no longer on my phone. I had brought Instagram back on my phone for a short period of time. Well, half a year. Relatively short. Mostly to be able to streamline, be able to post video updates to my listener base and to all the other artists out there. But I have to say that it's so easy to get sucked into the platform, to get lost. I'm gonna dial back. Oh, shoot. I'm gonna dial back some of this red. I used way too much. I'm gonna have to bring back some white on this, because now it's a mess. Now this is an absolute mess. I did too much. I need to practice a little bit more restraint, I think. More restraint. And not so much thought, but contemplation about my choices now. Add to that, to figure out where I want the motion to go, to add some semblance of motion, because there's not nearly enough motion in these paintings right now. They're not really guiding your eyes anywhere. This is a little bit bad. I don't like this. This red is way too... That's going to need to be broken up. But the rest of this, I think, is good. There's a good minimalism there. Well, maybe we'll put a little bit of more red in this corner to offset the blue in the opposite corner. Yeah, I think that'll work. Set that aside. I don't know, yeah, proper happy accident, yeah. Absolutely. I think Bob Ross is so right about a lot of those things. He is a sage soul. Could use more of his spirit and his kindness in all of our daily activities. I try not to boast about this too much, but once in a while I come back to this idea that one of my heroes, I'll just preface it this way, one of my heroes is Mr. Rogers. It seems like a weird not a weird, but it just seems like a children's show host is your hero? He's my hero because of his amazing, I don't know, his great depth of compassion and kindness for other people, regardless of their backgrounds, regardless of who they are, regardless of what they think or their viewpoints. I had seen a really, really good documentary. I think it's called Won't You Be My Neighbor or something like that, on Mr. Rogers. And he had a really, he had certain viewpoints about things. Like one of the actors in his show that they talked about in the documentary. And there was a really delicate moment that Fred handled with great skill. Very, very difficult circumstance. So one of his actors was gay, and this is the 70s. Remember, this is the late 60s, early 70s, mid 70s. And being homosexual was not exactly openly accepted. There were a lot of people that, held the idea that it's an abomination and distortions of biblical texts to try and support these ideas. And, well, it came to light that the actor, this gay actor on the I forget his name, on the show, was frequenting gay nightclubs in that particular scene. Fred was concerned for the welfare of the children and, wanted to try and prevent any weird scandals from arising. And Fred did it with such kindness, love, and compassion. There was no judgment about his actor friend, about his lifestyle, about his preferences and choices and things. It was all just, I'm really concerned about the children and the wrong story leaking and you being put in the wrong light, in a light that does not shine off who you are as an individual and was really concerned about everyone's welfare, really. Knowing how the news media works, knowing how humanity tends to look for a villain to string up publicly in the news media. And he handled it with such delicacy. To hear this guy talk about it, post-mortem after Fred's passing, and he viewed Fred with such high regard and how he handled that and appreciated and accepted it, and I thought that was really amazing. And I think that's one of the reasons why I really look up to him, his way to be able to deal with delicate issues with love and kindness and not judgment and not pointing fingers or villainizing people or demonizing people. And I feel like we need so much more of that, and it's my desire and my goal to be like that, to emulate a lot of that behavior, that kindness, in such a way that people feel loved. People feel accepted for who they are, encouraged to try different things, to think different ways, to have more curiosity in life, to acknowledge and honor your feelings, but also to not get swept up by them, because we can easily get swept up by our emotions. Hey, welcome, Dumb Rux. Nice to see you. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. How are you? It's great to have you here. Welcome in. This is not your ordinary Twitch channel. I don't do ordinary Twitch things. I don't raid people. People don't raid me. It's morning. Morning there. Well, good morning to you. Good morning. See, you must be near Australia, I bet. Of course, the mate gave it away. This is just abstract painting. So the whole thing, let me bring you up to speed on abstract painting. It's not meant to really make sense. It's not, there is no inherent meaning, but you bring the meaning to the composition. So when we look at an abstract painting, and granted this is not finished, you come to it, you first of all, you look for relationships. You look for the relationships between the different layers of paint, how the red plays off with the white or the blue or the burnt umber, and the layers that get developed. And you also look for movement. So you always look to see, where is your eye being naturally drawn to? And so as a painter, one of your jobs is to create some semblance of movement to keep the eye engaged on the canvas. It's not about having some sort of profound meaning, but it can be. It really can be, but it doesn't have to be. For me, painting tends to be emotional, and it tends to be exploratory. The idea of experimentation, of asking the question, what if? What happens if I do this? And it might be terrible. It might result in just an absolute mess. But you don't know until you try. You don't know unless you ask the question, what if? So I'm going to try. What if? What happens when I take a little red and go, what does it do? What is the relationship between these colors? How does the blue play off the red? How does it play off the burnt umber? So like it's exploration, experimentation, and growth, so it's just trying new things. But you can also inject a meaning underneath it. You can also add your own life experience, your own lived experience in the colors, in the way the painting moves around on the canvas, and on your choices, the choices that you make. So one example, so there is a sculpture I don't remember what the name of it's called, famously criticized. The sculpture is simply, or I should say was, because it's no longer around, but it was a sculpture of, in the corner of the gallery was a huge pile of candies, wrapped candies, like hard candies. And guests would come and they were encouraged to take a candy, until slowly, over time, the pile was eradicated to nothing. You might be tempted to go, well, that's not art. Until you throw in the context, until you throw in the meaning behind it all, what drives the choices. And in this sculpture, the context was an observation of the artist's significant other who had AIDS, and how he had to watch his partners be slowly whittled away, piece by piece, until the disease took his life and he was no more. That is art. To be able to observe the realities around us, to deeply contemplate them, to think about them, to meditate on those ideas, and to find a way to voice those feelings and voice those things in canvas, or on canvas, on paper, sculptures, crafts, whatever. So, that was something. But that to me is art, you know. So all this abstract stuff, you know, a lot of it is the eye of the beholder, but also it comes down to your level of curiosity as the viewer. Because if you don't come to art with any sense of curiosity, you're just a passive observer. You're like half the people that I see in an art gallery they'll spend 5 seconds in front of a painting and then be off to the next one. They're like, oh, that was interesting. Oh, I don't like that one. Ooh, that one's nice. And they'll maybe spend 10 seconds there. But then they're off and they treat art like drive-through food, like fast food. They're just on to the next meal. But when you come at it with curiosity and you really spend time with a painting or a sculpture, get up as close as you can without breaking any rules or violating any boundaries, and inspect the brush strokes. Feel the brush strokes from the artist. Like if they're short, lots of little dabs, or if they're long, confident strokes. Imagine for yourself, just for a moment, what the original artist was like, what was going through their mind as they're making these little strokes, or these little dots and dabs, or they're blending colors or sculpting up layers. Develop a little bit of a appreciation or curiosity for the journey that the artist went through. And sometimes even adding in a little bit of knowledge of art history to understand the arc of time and how art has changed over the many centuries to become what it is now. You start to see art in a lot different ways and can develop a lot more fond appreciation for even the most bizarre art. Now, does that mean you're going to appreciate every single piece of art out there? No. Completely unrealistic. However, that being said, oh man, and I still have so much red. Crap, I think I'm going to be wasting a lot of red. Do I have something I can throw it on? You know what? Let's do this. We're gonna go for broke. Pull out one of my old sketchbooks. I'm just gonna go for it. But let's do this first. I hate wasting paint. Even though it's relatively cheap. Oops. I don't know. There's some art that I have a hard time appreciating. You know, I'll be honest. There's some art that's requires a lot more effort for me to appreciate and to not harshly criticize it. However, with time, though, you can develop an appreciation, or at least the ability to spend more time with a piece, to ask more questions, to involve yourself as a participant in the painting, not just an observer. Like, how does a painting, what are the colors, what do the colors make you feel inside? Does it make you feel upset? Does it make you feel sad or happy? Or what kind of emotions do you experience? You know? Those are some of the questions you got to kind of ask yourself. What was the journey of the artist to get there? There we go. Now we have 7 pieces going at the same time. How about that? Alright, now let's clean that up and get some blue going. I feel like we're on the home stretch. Except for this one. This one just, ugh. Too much red. I think we're gonna do this. Let's do this. We're gonna work directly on the paper. Sometimes that can lead to some interesting results. Don't even use the palette. Just go straight to the paper. One of the things I also love, and this is just for all disclosure, this is just acrylic paint. I don't mind working with oil paint, but I don't really have the space for it. I have all these oil painting supplies and everything, and I've made a few oil paintings, but it requires so much space because, you know, because oil paint takes forever to dry. Forever. Unless you add in a medium that, like an agent that dries it up faster, but maybe we'll bring a little bit of this red back in here, but just in like small little dabs. But anyways, one of the things I was saying that I like about acrylic paint, though, is that you can just kind of sculpt these. You add all these layers of texture, and then when it's all dry, it's so satisfying to just run my hand over the page to feel the layers. It's so intensely satisfying for me. There's a few artists out there. I don't know. There was one in particular that I saw recently, some of his work, where his specialty is actually making art for the visually impaired to enjoy as well. Which I think is profound. You know, I love it. The inclusion. Don't leave anybody behind. Create art that everyone can enjoy and everyone can savor and experience in their own unique way. I like the idea of art you can touch and feel. Now, you can't do that with most pieces at your average art museum. But man, I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to reach in behind the glass of a Monet painting and feel the layers of paint. You know, really just feel the depth, feel all of feel the movement. So that's one of the things that I try to, at least in my paintings, try and incorporate some layering. Give you something to feel. Now, granted, I don't sell my art. I haven't even shown it, really. I've yet to be in an exhibition. Not really a high priority of mine at the moment. Because I don't do this for other people. I do this simply for myself. I used to really need validation. I sought validation in so many forms. But I'm getting better at not needing that. And really finding validation in myself. All right. We're going to move on to the blue. And then lastly, we're going to use some more white or black to help solidify movement. All right. Let's see. We're going to work. Let's work our way backwards with the canvas. Oh, first we got to lay down some paint. I think I want to go glossy with the blue. Like, why are you mixing gloss and matte? Why not just one or the other? Why not both? Why not? Who made the rules, man? Sometimes rules are there so you can break them. That's what people always say. That's true sometimes. All right. All right, let's see. Should we go with a brush? Let's go with a brush let's do some brush work instead of the palette knife. A little bit more contrast movement, but I'm still going to add a few dollops of blue texture here. Just so I'm not wasting that paint. And let's use this brush. We are listening to the music we're listening to right now. This is Captep. He's another new friend of mine in the ambient music community. This is his brand new album, Exhale. Very, Very good album. I was there for his listening party on Friday when he released the album. By the way, I highly encourage you to get plugged into Bandcamp. It's a great way to discover new music, new artists. Plus, when some of the artists have these listening sessions, these listening events, when they drop a new album, it's a great way to meet the artist and meet other people and make some connections that way. Makes makes music more personal. It really does, and it's a fantastic way of building community. Which is something I'm striving to do all the time, continuing to nurture and encourage other artists, help them feel heard, give their music a little bit more visibility. Let's be honest, the ambient music scene, it is underserved. It's very obscure. There's not a whole lot of, in a world of short-form content, it is not going to garner for itself a massive following. Apart from people's habits changing and their taste for long-form material. It requires patience. It requires curiosity. That is, if you're going to be an active listener to some of these stylistic choices. Because there's a lot of subtlety involved, a lot of slow changes, and a lot of layers, like painting. A lot of layers to investigate. I think this is good. I like where this is going. I don't know if you can see the full length of this, but there's enough movement. It's not direct enough, but there's enough movement to keep your eye going around on the canvas. No central point of interest, though. That's the one thing which maybe that's appropriate for this, because this is kind of my response to the state of the United States right now. Everything feels like a mess. It feels utterly chaotic. But the reality is, underneath it, there are some actors at the very top that are looking to dismantle democracy from within. I referenced an article earlier. Oh, thank you, Miro, for throwing that link in there. I don't know. It's a different world. It's not the world that we taught that was always going to be around. You know, I think we had this picture in our heads that democracy was always going to be here. But there are some radical ideas floating around that democracy is inefficient and is inhibiting the progress of technology. This just seems like a variation on the Jurassic Park plot, but set in government. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, I get it. The government can really seem inefficient. It is inefficient in many ways, and with the proliferation of misinformation and no value of discourse, of really trying to understand people who are different from yourselves. It's like an all or nothing kind of mindset. It makes it really hard for anything to get done because we've been too busy villainizing each other. The right villainizing the left and the left villainizing the right. That we have not stopped to ask ourselves, who is pulling the strings? Well, now we know. We know who's pulling the strings, and it's not Trump. It's not his voters. It's not the Illuminati. It's Elon Musk. It is Zuckerberg. It is Jeff Bezos. The wealthiest tech billionaires in the world. They are the ones pulling all of the strings. Because they want government out of their way. They want to be able to make whatever technological progress they envision, but at the expense of democracy, of civil discourse, whatever. I like where this is going. I like that. Maybe it'll bring back a little bit more white and then some black lowlights, I think. All right. I really enjoy this format of jumping between like 5 or 6 different mediums and paintings or whatever. Keeps you on your toes, and you're always trying different things, and you're not bogged down by one painting that just doesn't seem like it's working. And you can just bounce from one to the other, try some new things, and sometimes an idea that you get from one other painting can start to contribute to how another unfolds. I highly encourage you to try it if you're a painter. Don't be afraid to flip back and forth between paintings. Keep the conversation going. Okay, I really like this. I'm not as huge a fan of the burnt umber anymore. It didn't quite work the way I wanted it to. That's okay. You can use it as a means for darkening or subduing this blue a little bit. Alright, this feels like this needs a touch more white here, like a... And that might be enough on that one. Let's set that aside. Captep, if you are listening, I know you're not on right now, but if you happen to be listening in the video that gets exported to YouTube, I have to tell you, and I'll tell you in person too, or not in person, but in message, but oh my goodness, this was a great album to listen to. I really enjoyed all of the different layers and the textures and the really beautiful music. Another thing I really appreciate about ambient music is that it's there for you on, I hate that word or that phrase. It's available. You can listen to it on whatever level of focus you want. You can throw it on in the background as study or focus music or to set a mood. You can kind of, half listen to it as, as your day unfolds, as you're working or whatever. Or you can focus on it intensely. You can give it your undivided attention and listen for all of the interplay of the instruments, the sympathetic harmonies and rhythms that evolve out of the piece. And you can experience, you can have some really amazing listening experiences when you give ambient music your full attention. But, as I mentioned earlier, that does require you to have some level of curiosity and a willingness to pay closer attention. Some level of empathy. And those are really, really good traits to foster. Work on that patience level of yours. If you feel like you're an impatient person, well, there you go. There's your sign. There's something for you to work on. There's something for you to cultivate. Patience. Work on it. We tend to resign ourselves to our conditions and say, well, I'm just an impatient person, and we stop there. We don't we stop asking the questions, how can I cultivate patience? How can I become a more patient and understanding person, more empathetic, a curious listener? It's a good thing to work on yourself. One thing that I've learned, and this being more in recent years really, is that when you experience this is a lot better than it was before. When you experience challenging people or challenging circumstances, and you feel that impulse to immediately blame the other person for your feelings, that, as I have learned, that life is a mirror. Our suffering and our experiences in life is a mirror. It's really when we feel angst about something, or when we feel irritated or mad at someone or other difficult emotions, it's just a mirror. It points not at the other person and what their problems are, but it points to where you're stuck, what things you typically get hung up on, or the things that trip your trigger. And these are things that you can work on. You know, it doesn't make you a perfect person in the other side of it, but it's this... Oh, I like that. I like that too. Let's not get carried away, though. I like that just as it is. I don't need to do anything else to it. God, is that all of them? That is all of them. All right. Let's think about the black. I'm going to clean up as much. Let's see. Do we want to add any more blue before I clean it up? Nope. I think they all look good. All right. I'm going to clean up this blue. Try and save some of this gloss medium. I don't mind a little bit of blue mixed in with black. It might actually be kind of cool. Let's do that. Actually, let's do that. Let's leave that blue there. Mix in our Mars black. And I think we're on the home stretch. I do want to try and be wrapped up by 4 o'clock. Because I want to make some curry for my meals this week. I tend to like make one big meal, like a vegetarian meal. And that ends up being my main go-to meal for the week. I do cook other things though too for the whole family. But I tend to eat maybe 1 or 2 meals a day. I don't do the traditional 3 meals unless I'm whatever. All right, let's think about this before we just start throwing down black carelessly. Yeah, think about the movement. This to me feels like everything's wanting to push out. So maybe we can support some of that movement. Alright, that's not bad. Not great, but not bad. Alright, we're going to go back to the canvases though first, I think. That's what I should have done initially. This needs more white. I can feel it in my bones. I think we're going to come back to this one. Well, let's see. Yeah, I think some white is going to really bring some order back into this chaos. White. We need that one. This one, on the other hand, I think this is really well balanced, so we need to just be a little bit more mindful about where we introduce the black. Let's... break up this line here. And then let's come across here. Be very minimalist. I'm reminding myself, minimalist. Minimalist. I like the black kind of cutting across this momentum. And cut over like that. Yeah. Cool. I think this is done. Maybe slap a little bit more black on the corner. Maybe break up this blue a little. Yep, I like that, just as it is. All right. Now we're back to this pad. I like that. Let's do a little bit of movement across here. A little bit here. Just all right, I think this is good. I think we're going to come back at this with more white, though. I like where this is landed so far. All right, moving on. Let's go. Introduce a line right here. And then yeah. You know what this makes me feel of? Feel like the French Revolution right here. This little area. So that's how I know I feel like I'm on target here with this one. I don't think this needs anything. Maybe a touch more black in the corner. Yeah, I think that's good. Set you aside. the last 2 tablets, and then we're going to go back and do some white and try and finish this up. I love at this point, the paint is so textured with all these different layers that you start to get like this breakup in flow. So like certain things will catch the paint that other things do not. Like the little ridges and stuff. This seems like this could use a little bit more white. But that's also close. And then lastly, this poor notepad is almost, or sketch pad is almost done. I've got like 4 or 5 pages left on it. There we go. This might not be anything special, but I don't know. I love the feeling of it. It's kind of all that really matters in my sketch pad. It's when I open up the pages and I'm rifling through to get to an open spot, and I love pausing just for a moment to feel the dried acrylic paint. I think that needs more blue and white. Yep. All right. Let's stop to survey what is probably finished. This is definitely finished. I like this. I don't need to do anything to this. I really like the red and the blue and how they play with each other. The mix of white. There's a little bit of faint blue, light blue here because of the white. I love the underscores of the dark. The movement feels good to me. So let's do it. Let's peel back the tape. Now let's try and remind myself to be slow and gentle about this. Because I always get myself in a hurry. And when I hurry, the paper tears and pulls up fibers and gotta slow down. That right there is life. Slow down. Don't be in such a rush to fill it. Savor the moment right now. Savor this moment. If you're lost in thought, you catch yourself and you're swimming in a world of thoughts, worried about what's going to happen in the future, or obsessing about something that happened in the past. See your thoughts, acknowledge your thoughts, and then come back to the felt sense of breathing. Turn your attention inwards to how your body feels when it's breathing. And if necessary, take some really long, slow, deep breaths. Like really slow. We're talking molasses in January slow. Feel and experience the moment, how your body is feeling. Are you holding tension in your shoulders, in your lower back? If you happen to be drawing or painting right now, do you have tension in your arm, in your wrist, in your hands, in your fingers? Loosen up your grip. Oh my god, I love this. Dude. Look at that. I love this one a lot. You can't change my mind. Let's sign that mother. Let's sign it. Need... where's my 05 marker? Zero one. All right, I need to. Oh, it's a 0 to 5. All right, I'll sign it later. I don't need to take up so much time with that. Oh, dude, look at that. I absolutely love the flow. I love how the blue and the black kind of trade layers. The relationship between the white, red, and blue. I love the distressed feeling of it. This, to me, feels like America right now. Like it feels like a mess, but we're holding on for dear mercy. And there's still fragments of good. Let's hold on. I like this a lot. Alright. This one's alright. You know, this was... I think I'm going to call this one done. I don't really care as much about this one because this was last minute. Because I didn't want to... I didn't want to waste red paint. And here I am just gonna slap some paint on the paper and see what happens. I really could have given myself more of a margin, but whatever. That's not bad. Nothing to write home about, but this is also a sketch pad that I have not used in a couple years, and I need to start filling this up. Alright. So my two small pads, those definitely need some white, so I will be coming back to those for a little bit added layerage. Let's look at this one. Let's think about it for a moment. I feel like it needs a little accent of white coming up with the black. The black feels imposing. And I feel there's not enough blue, but I don't know. We'll see what some white does to it. So we're going to keep the tape on. We'll come back to that in a moment. That's done. I don't need to do a single thing to it. I love the movement. The layering is good. There's really interesting relationships happening between the red and the blue, like this mysterious thing that happened. Love the play between the blue and the white. This little conglomeration down here. Love this strong red strike. Yeah, this is done. Sign that later. And lastly, this little one. I think this one is done too. There's a good balance of all the colors. There's a lot of blue down here, a lot of red up here, a little sprinkling of white and black. There's some decent movement, so there's places for your eye to go. There is different layering going on, a little blue overlapping the red. Yeah, some interesting things. Not as strong as the bigger canvas, but this is still has some interesting prospect. I'm not sure if I might sit on this one and maybe add to it later. We'll see. We'll see how this sits with me. I'm not sure. All right. Let's clean up our palette quick. And we're coming up at 3:30 almost. My time. It's coming up in your bedtime, I believe, Miro. It's nice to see you in the chat. The relay station, Miro. I hope the programming is enjoyable for you, and I hope you're getting to make some connections with people and getting to be introduced to interesting music that becomes a new favorite of yours, or that's kind of the whole point of why I started this to begin with, to support the artists, to help broaden our collective horizons and become exposed to a whole host of music that probably never probably would remain obscure to the rest of us. There have been many times I've wanted to stop. Many times that I've wondered, why am I doing this to myself? Why? And I do. I stop and once in a while question myself and go, am I really doing what I'm meant to be doing? Or am I really doing something that's amounting to any good? But I tell you, I have these one-on-one conversations or messages from other artists, and especially some of these guys and gals that, you know, their music would be left to obscurity. No one really noticing, except for maybe a friend or two of theirs, a loved one, giving them kind of like the good old pat on the back. Oh yeah, it was a nice job. And that's the last that they'll hear about it from their friends. You know how like a friend or loved one, they kind of listen to your music or whatever. I know you don't make music, Nero, but I almost called you Nero. Woof. Woofed. He was a Nero with an N, was a terrible, cruel Roman emperor. And kind of the start of the downfall of Roman society. The vibes can swing so abruptly, but there's always a chill vibe. This is Miro talking in chat here for those of you that don't have access to the chat. Sometimes soothing and sometimes pushing anxiety until you turn on brain and ask yourself, why am I anxious again? And then back to normal and enjoy the program. Yeah, you know, some music does that. Some music has kind of the, it really can surface up some feelings, some emotions and responses to the music. And that's when you know that the music is doing its job. If it's evoking a response, then it's probably doing something right. Maybe. Not always, but... But ultimately, it really just... I want to be able to give these artists the kind of gift that I would love. And that's for someone on the other end who's listening and going, yep, I get it. I love this stuff. Keep going, keep making, keep creating. Don't stop. Don't let your fear of being insignificant, don't let your fear of being obscure of having no followers or no fans. Don't let that stop you. Keep making music. Let it be let it be your guiding star. The joy of creating just because you can. Because it really is good for your mental health to create. That's why I do this. It's good for my mental health to create. All right. Let's see, where's my white? There's titanium white. Blend a little bit of that with this gloss matte, or excuse me, this gloss medium. Now, question is, can I be minimalist about this and not assert my ego in the paintings with what remains and be gentle with the white? All right, let's look at this. When in doubt, take some deep breaths. And you continue in chat and said, and yes, like so many phenomenal content creators on so many platforms, thank you for creating this space on Twitch and YouTube and being the voice of so many incredible artists. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I do. There we go. There we go. And let's right here. I had a weird half dream. I call it a half dream because I was like half awake. I was laying in bed. And it wasn't really like a, I don't know, it was like an imagining of the mind. And I think I'm going to call this done. I'm going to stop futzing with this and just be happy with it. This, by the way, this imagining or this half dream is not at all rooted in reality. It's just the imagining of the mind. But it was an interesting brief moment. Half observing this. I had this kind of half dream of society coming into this totalitarian rule, and artists were kind of similar to Nazi Germany, rounding up all of the artists. One of the reasons why Hitler stole so many pieces of art, not only the good stuff, but there was a certain German aesthetic that was idealized, And modern art was not one of those aesthetics, and was frowned upon in Nazi Germany. But anyways, I had this passing vision / dream / imagining daydream kind of thing, half awake, that it came down to, like, I had some level of influence and people were following my content, and then Elon Musk put me in some sort of like decision. Like, I can make you famous, I can give you all of the fans that you could possibly adore, but you need to bow and kiss my ring in kind of a monarchy kind of fashion. And in my dream I said, no, give me obscurity. I will take obscurity over bowing into you and kissing your ring. I don't care if no one ever sees my art or hears my music. I value my freedom of mind. I value my freedom of choice. I value being able to decide for myself my own future, decide for myself what is a priority and what is not. It was a weird dream, but it kind of points to how I feel about all this. Hey, this isn't too bad. What do you think? It's not too bad. Probably could use a little bit more blue, but I'm fine with this. Plus, it's just my sketch pad. It's quite all right. Let that dry. Anyways, there's no way that scenario would ever happen to me. Elon Musk is not going to come up to me and go, "Kiss my ring, and I will make you famous." I mean, this is the classic movie plot, and this may have something to do with I had also just watched Dune 2, like the day before or whatever. Anyways, I had just recently watched Dune 2, so there was a little bit of that whole ring kissing action kind of thing going on. So that likely played into my dreams. Just a weird thing, though, to imagine having to make some sort of choice like that. Let's do it this way. Now, I don't think anything like that would ever happen, but it could happen. Historically, this sort of thing happened for high-profile people. Yes, the white borders really do make it pop because now it's framed. That's half of the reason for the taping up of the paintings, is because that having that border, it terminates it. It keeps it all nicely contained, and it, for whatever reason, it just really appeals to a lot of our sensibilities. You know, there's limits. It doesn't go on forever. And it keeps it contained. All right, I think that's done. That's good enough. And it's just in this book. It's not like this is going to be shown in a gallery. Maybe. I don't know. I sometimes wonder, and I don't dwell on this at all, but I sometimes wonder if, well after my death, if the art becomes significant to other people. Now, first and foremost, that really doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me what other people think of my art. It serves its purpose for me to be able to vent, to be able to decompress, to Oh, 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 come on. We're tearing up a little paper here. Shoot. Come at it the other way. Like right now, this is serving its purpose. It's a chance for me to just express myself, to let go of anxiety, to let go of my feelings, and let go of it in the form of paint and on paper and canvas, and it doesn't require me to come up with words for my feelings and my emotions and the thoughts that I have. It can just represent it in the mix of colors and motion and layering and textures, and in this case the distressing feeling of all order being lost. Yeah, never say never. Right. I only say it because it just doesn't matter to me, the fame. Because I know what fame can do to people. And I also know from my studies in Buddhist teachings and other spiritual traditions too teach this, that fame is forever transient. You know, 1 minute you're the bee's knees, everyone loves you. The next minute you're P. Diddy. Or whatever. I like this. I really like this. I enjoy this piece, and the borders make it. Oh yeah, I like that. I really enjoy this, and I can't wait to run my hands over it when it dries. There is some good texture going on there. I can see it. The black and the white have a little bit of gloss, as well as some of the blue. Oh, good stuff. We have one left. One left. Yep, and this one I remember. We're going to send a little bit of white up along the black. Balance this out. Question is, how do we want to go about this? Let's try... That made a lot of difference right there. Let's bring a little bit of white down here. Kind of break up some of this. A little bit of that. And then lastly, I gotta think about this. Do I want to go from the left or the right? Let's go this way. We'll create like a vacuum in the middle. Not like a Hoover vacuum or a Dyson vacuum, but this negative space in the middle. That creates natural movement. Your eye would be drawn either way, up or down. This looks good. Maybe a little bit of white here. A little bit there. Let's break this up just a little. Just a little. I think this is good. Do I want to do... Yeah. A little bit of that right there. I think that's good. All right, we'll call it. Time of death. 3:48 Central Time. February 16th, 2025. All right, let's peel back the tape. Nice and slowly. I have to say that would be really weird to be in a scenario where Musk would be like, I can make your dreams come true, but you must kiss my ring. What a fucking clown. What a clown that guy is. One of the ideas I'm really trying hard to embrace is that nobody is inherently evil. They just get caught up in really evil ideas. And it feels like the most right and logical choice for them. That makes perfect sense to me. It doesn't make it any easier to like them or to love them or treat them with respect. Like I still have an overwhelming desire to want to punch Elon Musk in the nuts. Stop destroying our country, you idiot. There are people that depend on this democracy. And maybe that's a shortcoming to you. But there are some people that were born with numerous shortcomings and they can't do anything about it. So it's our job in government and privately in society to care for the least of these. Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? This one's not bad either. I like this one. Oh, we're tearing paper again. Stop it. Stop. All right, there we go. I really need to practice my patience. Ooh, we got a bleeder. Look at that. It's going to be a page later on that's going to have some nice red. It's okay. We'll figure out a way to work it into the composition. Yep, a few pages are going to have some red. That's all right. Not the end of the world. It's just paper. That's cool. I like that one. Not my favorite of the bunch, but I do like this one. I like it, I like it, I like it. Oh my goodness, it's Becca! Oh, so nice to see you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry that you were dealing with some anxiety today. I'm sorry about that. Some warm hugs and all the good vibes and well wishes to you. May you be filled with love, peace, and joy today. And I mean that. And I'm glad that it helped with you deal with your anxiety. We have collectively a lot of anxiety going around. A lot of anxiety. And it's for that reason that those of us that are able to, this is the time where all of the Mr. Rogers in the world, all of the Bob Rosses of the world, where we need to stand up and be a beacon of kindness for one another, and a beacon of stability, and a beacon of hope. Not that there's necessarily hope in the democracy itself and whatever fuckery's going on in the world. But there is hope within ourselves. There is peace within ourselves. We can cultivate stability of mind and stability of heart in the midst of whatever we may be experiencing or feeling. The Buddha was the prime example of this, and maybe some of this is just story and myth. Maybe it's all true, but the day that the Bodhisattva, the day of his, when he, and I hate using the phrase attained enlightenment, because it's not something you attain. You don't attain enlightenment. You move into it, and it becomes a part of your the way that you live. You see things clearly, because that's what enlightenment means. It means that you see with clarity. You see the truth of the way things work. And the day of his enlightenment, he had spent days and days and days and days under this tree, this mythical tree. The Bodhisattva tree is what they call it. And he meditated for days and weeks on end, not taking in any food or drink, and still in meditation the whole time. And it's taught in some of the Buddhist texts that he faced every possible and imaginable fear of the mind, and all of the things that we experience daily as human beings. Suffering and worry and anxiety and fear and judgment, and it's said that all of these things came upon him, and the Bodhisattva was not moved. That is equanimity. When the world around you feels like it's on fire, when the stability that we've relied on falls through, when it feels like the world is on fire, even literally, we can remain unmoved. And by unmoved, I mean not swept up by the drama, not swept up in the thoughts and the imaginings, because leave it to our imagination to take the reality of a situation and make it something even worse, because that's what the mind does. The mind is actively looking to preserve you. It's looking to spare you of suffering and pain and all the inconveniences, but in reality, it also generates its own suffering because of the imaginings, dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, instead of being right here, right now, this spot, this place. Not lost in thought, not worried about what could happen or what won't happen or what should happen. Just be here right now. Breathe. Deep breaths. Close your eyes. Let the thoughts pass. Let them pass by, and return your attention back to your breathing. Return your attention to the feelings in your body. If you're holding tension, draw your attention to those areas of irritation or those feelings of itches or pain, and breathe into those spaces. Draw your attention and give yourself compassion. Use your imagination, because your imagination is really powerful. Your imagination drums up suffering. Well, your imagination can also drum up healing. This is why science is called it's called the placebo effect, but the placebo effect is real. That there is an untapped power in the mind that we don't understand. And it has the potential to heal the body. And so use your imagination. Imagine bringing peace and love and a feeling of being okay in those spaces in your body, because that's usually where we're storing our trauma, is in our body. Not necessarily just in the mind. The body holds on to that trauma as well. So bring your attention to those spaces. Breathe. Let go. And observe what you feel right now. Observe your breath. Observe the space around you. The things you hear, like my barking dog. Use all that to bring you back to the present moment so that you're no longer lost in thought. And that's where most of us, if not all of us, get hung up on from time to time, is when we're lost in thought. Like we read something that's distressing, we see something that's distressing, or hear something distressing, and the mind immediately starts going to work, figuring out how it's going to preserve you from death, from the imaginings. But it's just drumming up its own suffering. So it's learning to acknowledge the mind. I like to tell my mind, thank you for your service. I really appreciate you trying to look out for me. But this is causing me suffering right now to think about this, to dwell on this, to think about these things in this manner and for this long. I'm going to let go of this now. I'm going to turn my attention back to my breathing. And I'm going to sit and meditate upon this mantra. And let's do it again. We did it earlier in the stream. Let's do it one more time and we'll wrap up. So let's close our eyes, if you would. Sit upright nice and straight. Don't slouch. Sit with dignity. You are a valued human being. You are the stuff of stars. You have the consciousness of the universe flowing through you, awareness flowing through you. So let's take some deep breaths together. When I say deep breaths, I mean really long and slow deep breaths. So let's inhale through your nose. And just pause for a moment. And slowly exhale out of your mouth. Keep exhaling until all of the air is expelled out of your lungs. And pause. Take another deep breath. And hold it for a moment. And let it go. Let's keep this breathing pattern up. And I'll say a mantra to guide our thoughts as we breathe. May I be filled with love, joy, and peace. May I see the goodness in myself and in all living things. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be joyful and content. Let that be your mantra this week. Let it be your guiding thought. To cultivate the love and the kindness and the joy within yourself. To see the beauty that's in you, to see the goodness inside yourself. We all have a lot of bad stuff. We do. All of us do. But see the goodness inside you. See the goodness in other people. See the goodness in people that we vehemently disagree with. See the goodness in others and in all living things. Cultivate peace, a sense of equanimity, an acceptance of the way things are, and a calm firmness to be able to walk through it. And lastly, cultivate inside yourself joy, peace, contentment. Stop striving for more things, for more possessions, for more experiences, for more status, more wealth, more followers. Instead, just cultivate contentment with whatever is right now. The fact that you have that you have air in your lungs. God willing that you have food and clean water, shelter, a place to sleep at night. And if you don't, I wish for you those things, the basic bare necessities that we all deserve. But above all, I just wish you peace, joy, love, and kindness in everything. So, with that, my dear friends, I think it's time for me to wrap up. It's after 4 my time, which means I've been streaming for almost 4 hours. It's a bit of work, but hey, we got some really great painting done. There's some works that I'm like, yes, I like this. And I think like, this is one of my favorites. Can I show you this? This one is one of my favorites right here. Love that one. I really love the relationships between the colors and the black. It kind of has that, I don't know, it reminds me of the French Resistance. That would be my favorite. But there's a couple other ones that just really knocked out of the park for me as well. Well, on that note, I think it's time for me to stop talking. I'm going to go sit in silence for a while after I clean up. Thank you so much, my friends. May you be filled with love, peace, and joy. Take care, and maybe we'll see you next week. I highly encourage you, if you haven't done so, come hang out for the relay station. It's Sunday mornings at 1500 GMT or 9 a.m. Central for ambient music, and the community is slowly growing there. The people are wonderful, kind, and supportive of each other, and I'm hoping to continue to foster and cultivate a growing community of kindness and joy and music. And thank you, Miro, for putting that URL in there. But you can always catch the archives of the Relay Station on YouTube. Eventually, I'm going to be moving a lot of things over to Substack. I've already moved the mailing list over there, and I'm starting to reproduce some of the programming there as well. And eventually, that'll become a major hub for all of the activity. And it doubles as a great mailing list platform, a great community platform, and all these other things. So, but anyways, have a fantastic week. I know the world is on fire, but you are okay. You are okay. You are okay. I promise. You are okay. I care for you. I appreciate you very much. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.